welcome to the Life in General podcast. My name is Nick.
My name is Ian.
And, did I just break something?
Yeah, you just banged something.
No, I just, pulled on my microphone. The whole damn thing, popped.
Oh.
So,
Good job.
Breaking things. Any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@lifeingeneralpodcast.com. Check us out on Twitter @LIGpod. We're on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, all that crap. Our YouTube channel.
Everywhere, yeah.
What are you picking up off the floor, man?
Oh, no, I thought it was a Lego, but it's not.
What is that?
I don't know.
Some kind of cap or something. But
Yeah. It's not a Lego.
Nope. We're on Spotify and iHeartRadio and all that stuff, too. So
Yep, everywhere.
Everywhere. See how I did it again?
Yeah, what are you doing?
I don't know.
Why can't you just leave it alone?
Because I don't know why. It's like a habit of mine. I pull on my
I do
microphone.
the same thing.
I always constantly adjust my
Instead
microphone.
of moving my head, I move the microphone away,
Yes.
when I'm not talking and stuff. Yeah. Because apparently I'm not capable of just adjusting
my head.
my own body. I have to adjust the mic accordingly.
I have no control of my body.
I'm just dangling. It's bobbing like a bobblehead.
Dangle is such a terrible word.
Why? It's a descriptive term.
I
It's not
guess-
like moist.
I think it's like the male version of moist, though. Is it?
Not really.
Dangle?
Well, I mean, we have danglies, but
I know, but
I don't know. It doesn't bother me in any way. Neither does moist, though.
yeah, I guess.
Or
so.
dripping.
Dripping.
Dripping can be another one that can affect people's moods.
I found out at work. Well, I guess people have a problem with the word panties also. But,
Yeah, that's been a ongoing joke.
and I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
I understand. I've heard of the moist thing and all that
Right.
before, but never. I don't know. When my kids were little, my daughter was little. I told her to put on
Her panties on. Yeah, I know. It's always, to me. It was always kind of considered like the nicer way to say it, if you ask me.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I like to wear panties.
Baby, take off your bitches.
Right, britches.
Pull it on your drawers.
What it was like underwear. I mean, that's the way it should be called, underwear. But it is underwear, undergarments. But I don't know. Panties just doesn't seem like that big of a deal to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
But neither does moist or dripping
No.
or any of those words.
Dangling
And dangle, dangle.
swinging meat.
I guess. I mean, like I said, it doesn't. I only applied, dirty thoughts to when it's necessary.
I kind
Like to tell a joke or something.
I kind of apply it to most things, but
Yeah, I mean, you can, and a lot of people do, and sometimes it's random. You're just like, wow, that was pretty fucking dirty, but,
Speaking of words, I know this is a terrible segue.
That's okay.
I was thinking about yesterday, and with everything political going on, and kind of the division in the country, is it time that social media sites
Shut down.
better censor themselves and censor people on them?
No, unfortunately. I see why you would think so, and it does sound good, but you start censoring one thing, you have to censor it all.
Because I saw this.
Then you can't even say, then the right, when I say right, the political right, some of their fears start to become real, because it's like you can't say Merry Christmas anymore because, and I know it sounds stupid because I'm not one of those people, obviously, but once you start censoring the bad, you've got to, we've said it a million times, you've got to let the bad be there, because you can't have it both ways.
Well, I'm not saying so much that route. I'm talking about fake news. I hate using that term, but is it time for
it would require
them to take more of a proactive approach to what is on and posted through their sites?
It still would. It can still fall under the category of free speech, but it would also require them.
Free speech doesn't apply, man.
But it would also require them to have to verify every fucking post of the millions and billions of posts that happen every day. Is it even possible to regulate that?
But free speech doesn't apply because they're a private company.
True, but the free speech of the clients could be argued,
which still doesn't really apply.
I know it doesn't apply, but who's going to fact check everything? That's the problem. You can't. And if one gets through or 10 get through, then it's like, well, why did those get through and they're fake news, but this one actually is true? This is a climate change article that gets flagged because someone considers that fake news.
Yeah.
And where do you draw the line? What is fake news? Because if we know that a climate change article, for the most part, is going to be scientifically reasoned and factual, but there's a side that's going to say it's fake news.
Because here's the thing I was kind of thinking. I was driving home this morning thinking about this. And I was listening to Chuck Todd's podcast, and he kind of talked about it a little bit. And actually, he brought up the whole baby boomer thing too.
Did he?
He made the comment something along the lines of, once the baby boomers are gone, a lot of this fake news stuff is going to be gone with it also. But at least people that believe
possibly,
it.
He
said half of it. Half of it will disappear.
Because we happen to know a millennial, or not a millennial, a Gen Xer who who follows it,
but it, I don't know, because it's at one time in most of our nation's history, there was this unspoken contract between the media and the public, the news media and the public, that they were going to present information
as factually
as possible. And I know through the late 80s and through the 90s, some of that started to crumble, some of that wall. But with the rise and explosion of social media, it's completely gone. The contract is completely gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
because I mean, even regular media has gotten worse as a result of it, I think.
And should pressure be put on social media companies to try to rein in some, because they already do that. They already do, but they pick and choose.
Right, but that's what I feel like.
And they only pick and choose when something explodes in their face.
Right. Well, so it's like the TSA.
Yes.
To take out every fourth person, and they always have to have a little grandma come out and search her just to make it so it doesn't look like they're singling out any particular.
But is it time to put? And I hate what social media has done to our society.
Right.
But it's also on us as a society what we've allowed it to do to us, and what we've allowed it to do with our private information.
True. Well, I think as far as what can be done on a governmental level or a social level, it has to go. I think it has to they have to rein in the actual news media.
Yeah.
The ABCs, the Reuters, the NBCs, the Foxes, all that what claims to be legitimate news. Uh-huh. If you have news in your title, you should be held to a higher standard. And I think they need to start it there. And I think if they did that, it could work its way down in a sense, because they become the filter.
I kind of see it the opposite way.
But you can't can't filter your grandfather who's been on Facebook for 2 years, barely understands how to use it, but he sees these posts about Donald Trump being the best thing ever, because and he just shares it.
No matter what you do to quote unquote news organizations, and I say that because a lot of it's infotainment for the most part.
Well, that's what it's become.
But here's the thing, though: as long as because a lot of people, most people get their news from what? Facebook or Twitter.
Well, right.
So
but you can't change that. You can't change people's thinking.
But this is what I'm saying, though: is if you put pressure on news organizations to change without changing the social media aspect of it, people aren't going to pay attention to the change.
But you can't change the social media aspect of it.
I think you can.
No, I don't think you can, because Facebook is not a news organization. So the government can't regulate it, can't say you are a news source.
No, but Facebook can regulate itself.
They can, but they don't want to.
And that's what I'm saying. Is it time to put pressure on these organizations or these companies?
How does the government do that, though? You can't. I mean, I don't see any way that the government can put any regulation on Facebook to tell them what they can and cannot do with their content.
They sure as hell can put regulations on what they can do with your privacy.
Well, that's a whole different topic.
Because I'm going to tell you, because that's the thing. If you're getting something for free off the internet, they're selling your information.
Oh, I know. I'm not saying, and they're two separate issues, though. I'm talking about the spread of false information and that kind of thing, propaganda, and what you're talking about, I think, is more privacy issues. But privacy issues, the government can get involved any way they want.
But that's the thing, though, is if you want to force a company to change, what do? You go to the money,
right?
If you
but you don't have anything to bargain with, because what do you say? Rein in your fake news and your shit posts, or we're going to make it so you can't sell people's information. Because what do? You're saying, okay, if you do that, you can go ahead and sell their information, and then it's just the same as it was.
As far as the privacy stuff has to get addressed anyway,
right? But it's not getting addressed if it's just being used as a bargaining tactic.
Yeah,
it's because ultimately, if Facebook does what you want them to do, you have to let them do what they're already doing, and then it doesn't change anything.
Yeah, regardless, something. I mean, it's I don't know. I just don't like where where it's all headed to.
Oh, it's headed for a bad place. I mean,
it's already there.
It is,
it's just getting worse.
It's cliche to say, but I mean, we haven't even hit full blown 1984 Orwellian society yet.
Yeah,
we're starting to. It's getting there. It's progressing in that direction, but we haven't even hit that yet.
I don't know. I don't know. I was just driving home this morning. I was thinking about it, and like I said, he mentioned it on his podcast, and I was like, "Oh, it's."
I was just driving home thinking, "Don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep."
Well, and you're here, so you didn't fall asleep.
I didn't fall asleep. No, not while I was driving, anyway. But it was a struggle.
So we actually have a topic for today.
Yeah. That also involves propaganda to a degree.
Does it?
Yeah, kinda. I mean, if you dig deep into the stories,
I guess
there.
So we're going to talk about the new Star Wars movie, and if you
haven't seen it yet,
we're going to spoil some stuff.
Absolutely. Well, we cannot discuss this movie without spoiling it. I'm sorry. There's just no way. So if you haven't seen it, put us on pause. Go see the fucking movie.
And by the way, the numbers. I mean, a lot of people have seen it
yeah,
anyway.
Yeah.
Would you say it had done already?
500 million worldwide so far, as of today.
And that's in a week.
Yeah.
That is pretty decent.
It's not below expectations necessarily, but it's below what they would prefer. It's definitely below Force Awakens.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
They want Avengers
exactly,
progression.
Yes.
They want every one of them to be exactly the same or better than the last, which as a business model you do, but it's just not always the case.
No, that's not going to happen.
And the problem is they did not plan this trilogy right, and that's part of the problem. As far as they're, and I mean we'll get into it as we discuss our review of it, but when J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan wrote Force Awakens, they wrote a lot of stuff without having any explanation for it, just saying, well, it'll get explained later. And then now J.J. has to wrap everything up, but because he didn't have a plan to leave to say to Rian Johnson, okay, you can do whatever you want, but this, and this have to be addressed.
Yeah.
Which is what he should have done, and then no one would have hated the fucking Last Jedi as much as they did, because at least it would have been part of the whole story. Mm-hmm. And then when he comes to Episode 9, it wouldn't have been such a mishmash of things.
What I can say is that typically, and it's not always the case, typically the second movie is always seen as it's not as good as the other two,
with the exception of The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the rare ones.
And The Godfather Part 2, which some would argue is not really necessarily a trilogy in the traditional sense, but
it is.
It is. Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's better than the first one. I mean, the first Godfather movie is pretty damn good.
Yeah, but I think universally most people like the second one better.
Yeah.
I think universally,
it might have had a stronger storyline to it, but with the whole Fredo aspect and all that.
Well, that and then the backstory, the history too. So.
Oh, that's true. So yeah, I mean, I feel like, I mean, I liked
Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker.
I did too. I liked it as well.
It was better than my expectations.
I had issues with it, but nothing that detracted from the enjoyment of watching it.
Yeah.
When I'm watching it, I enjoy the visuals are good. The story by itself is fine. What they did conclude at the end and wrap up, they wrapped up fine. My problem is just it was, and I actually I said this to a couple people at work who asked me if I'd seen it, and they agreed with me. It should have been two movies, shorter movies. But
I don't think so. I think if they would have added 20 minutes to the movie, it wouldn't have.
Well, maybe, and that someone else said that, or just make it a Lord of the Rings like 3.5 hour movie.
I don't even think it needed to be that.
Well, still, my problem is since we're spoiling this, I don't think they explained the Emperor's resurrection. I do not know how he did. They never explained how he survived.
Okay. At
all. They don't have to explain where he's been for 35 years. but they should explain how he survived, and just throw a throwaway line like, or it could have been cloning or Sith magic. Well, that's a throwaway line. It doesn't explain anything. It's just two possibilities.
And actually, there's another line in the movie, the very beginning of the movie, that kind of...
It doesn't say how he did it.
No.
Just said that he did it. He just said, I survived. He doesn't say how.
Well, Palpatine says to Kylo that the Force is a path. It says the Force is a pathway to many abilities that some consider to be unnatural.
Which is an extreme. I mean,
which is the exact same line
from
said in Episode 3 to Anakin.
But that still doesn't explain anything. Yes, okay, it's the same thing as saying cloning or Sith magic. That's saying Sith magic.
Yeah,
it doesn't explain anything.
But I don't think you have to come out and say this is how he did it. You can leave some things open to...
Not something that big. His death in Return of the Jedi is the entire culmination of Anakin's story. It's his redemption.
Yeah.
And now you're saying it didn't even happen, but you're not even saying how it didn't happen.
No, I get it. I just don't. I don't.
If it hadn't been that,
I didn't have a big deal with
if he had died and say, if Luke had just shot him with a blaster at the end of Return of the Jedi, sure, okay, I don't really need it. But this was a pivotal moment in Return of the Jedi.
Oh yeah,
and it doesn't. It's just kinda, okay. He's back. Yay! It's fucking Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
Does the Emperor's Return kind of destroy Darth Vader's sacrifice that he made?
If they explain how he came back, no. If they don't, then yes.
Yeah.
Because if you don't explain it, it's just, he failed. But if he comes back through other means, if he explains how he managed to do it, it doesn't...
I think it was pretty obvious the way it was set up that he was cloned. Or he used a clone body or something along those lines. Because he was surrounded by cloning pods around him.
Of Snokes.
Oh, okay, that was just one.
Yeah, but they don't show that it's in the other ones.
They don't show
they could have just been more pods of Snokes.
It could have been.
And some people had a problem with that. I didn't. That, to me, that explains Snoke.
Yeah.
If they had shown other emperors in those other pods, I would have been like, okay, fair enough. But they didn't. They did not show that.
I think that was kind of their way of
saying something is... When you're talking about a visual medium and storytelling, those two things are separate, but they need to be worked together. If you're not explaining it in the story and you're not showing it, then it doesn't exist. That's the whole fucking point of a visual storytelling.
They kind of show it, though.
They showed something, but they didn't explain it.
I don't think they have.
When you're reading a book, do they say words that don't make any sense? We say, those words are. It's there. It's there.
Like I said,
you have to fucking show it or explain it. It's a visual storytelling medium. So
like I said,
say it or show it.
They did show it
in the background where you can't see it.
If you're paying attention to it,
if you're paying attention to it, you can see it. I didn't see it. I was paying attention. I did not see it.
Okay. Well, I didn't have.
Did you actually see Palpatine clones in those tanks?
No.
Then you didn't see it.
But that's what they're saying, though.
Those tanks could have been anything.
Oh my God, Ian!
They could have been anything. I just find it funny that you and for the record, I liked Rise of Skywalker. I might even go as far as to say I liked it better than Last Jedi, because I liked The Last Jedi. But I don't understand how people can bitch, and you were one of them, about Leia using the Force to float through space, but you're okay with them just not explaining anything.
Because I feel like they did explain it. They just didn't have to come out and say word for word. Oh, well,
you're right. They didn't have to. But
what had happened.
But a good storyteller would have had. But they didn't show it.
I don't think they need to.
If you don't show it and you don't explain it, then it could be anything. If you're leaving it up to the viewer's imagination, I don't think they really left it
up to imagination. There was several lines in the movie, and then all the cloning pods. It was very obvious that he was cloned.
I'm going to go see it again on New Year's Day, and I'm going to tell you if I watch it and go, okay, maybe it's there, I'll admit it. But I'm going to tell you, if I'm not, I'm going to mark my score down from whatever I give it today by a 0.5.
Yeah, I just don't. I feel like I had much bigger issues with the trilogy than that little issue.
Overall?
Yeah.
Oh, I have tons of issues with the trilogy overall. Just mainly in the execution, because it wasn't planned out. For all of George Lucas's faults, all of them, and even some of the backpedaling he does on storytelling, where he says, "I've had this planned out for 40 years," and then he just starts writing it in 1998 or 97. all that aside, when he writes it out, he has an overall outline of what he wants to do, and everything he does works into that outline. This was not that. This was we've got Star Wars. We can do it better than George. Let's do it. And J.J. Abrams is a fine director. He's a very good director. And for all of its potential flaws, things that I see as flaws for The Force Awakens, it's a great movie. I liked it. I thought
it was a good movie. I had issues with it.
As a trilogy,
but I feel like this movie kind of corrected some of those issues. But okay.
Yeah, I guess so. It still didn't explain how Maz Kanata gets the fucking lightsaber. That's a big one. That's a big fucking thing he should have explained. But he didn't. Even though his own writing says a story for another day. He had his opportunity, he didn't use it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. There was no outline. It was just, let's do this movie, and then we'll get some other director to come in and they'll do their own movie as part of the trilogy. They'll keep it going. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You have to have a structure. Otherwise, you get the disconnect from The Force Awakens to The Last Jedi. That's obvious because of the way people reacted to it.
And I guess your issue with the Emperor, which I understand, it's I understand to a certain point, but there's lots of other things that I felt weren't explained in any of the movies either.
Well, give
like
me an
the
example.
lightsaber,
Yeah.
or them having Han Solo's medal at the end of.
Leia would have had it.
Okay, but
I mean, they were married. It's theoretical that she would have stuff of his.
I guess, but I mean, that's be something really strange.
And
for them to
not
have.
necessarily. That might not necessarily have even been Han's. That could have been Luke's, for all we know. I mean, it doesn't.
Either
make any
one
sense.
would be kind of strange to have still, but okay.
I don't know. That was a big moment in their lives. They would probably keep those medals.
The other thing is, I kind of thought it was really strange. The whole Rey is looking for a Sith Wayfinder.
Yeah,
to be able to make it to whatever their home planet's called. But
right.
To try
Exegol, or Exegol, something like that.
Something along those
Exegol,
lines.
Yeah.
So she finds this dagger that she uses to over the ruins of the Death Star to find this Wayfinder, which I think is really strange. That so you are expected to stand in some
random
spot where this Death Star has been sitting for decades, and it's going to be you expect it to be in the exact same condition to perfectly match up with the outline of the side of this dagger. I kind of had a bigger issue with that than I did with the Emperor.
I did too, but
that's something that I caught right off the bat. I was like, well, that's kind of strange.
Those are the little story details that they always bother me, but I can overlook them because you find that kind of thing in a lot of movies.
Well, look at the other thing.
Even fucking Marvel movies have shit like that.
So when the Millennium Falcon's coming down, and after their landing gear doesn't work, right? And they crash land on the planet, right? So they scoop down and crash land. Why? The Millennium Falcon has the ability to
hover,
or take off vertically.
Yeah, well, it always takes off vertically
and land vertically.
Yeah.
So why'd they have to crash land? That's something else.
See, and I didn't even pick that up, but
Yeah.
that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I just took it for what it was. But
I don't know. I have bigger issues with things like that.
No, but see, that's
because that's easy shit that doesn't need to be in there.
That is easy shit, but it's visual shit. It's not. It doesn't. The dagger partially does move the story along, but
very much so.
The Emperor is the whole fucking story. And,
it is.
And going back to that, everything could have been exactly the same in Rise of Skywalker as far as the explanation for the Emperor if there had been some hint, some little throwaway line in Force Awakens about the Emperor not necessarily, potentially not being dead.
No, but they're never going to do that because they wanted to hold on to that. And
they could have done it.
And when they did The Last Jedi, they probably had no idea that the Emperor was even going to be alive still.
Right, but that's my point. It's like
it wasn't planned out.
Yeah. It was planned out. They used a lot of story elements from two sources. They used elements from George Lucas's original sequel trilogy ideas, and they used elements from Legends.
Yeah,
and if they used the Legends thing and explained it. Because, I mean, if the Emperor's cloned, that's straight out of Dark Force, or Dark Empire.
Which isn't even part of the canon anymore.
It was, though.
Not anymore.
Before. That's why I said Legends.
Yeah.
It's called Legends
Yeah.
now. And that was a good story. And in that, they show like a whole room of just nothing but Palpatine clones. I mean, it's all just, it's how he kept himself going.
Okay.
And you can assume that's what they did here, but they didn't show that. If they would have shown that, if they would have shown that, rows of tubes with Palpatines in them, there's nothing more needed.
And that's why I kind of wonder if they're going to do something like Mandalorian or something like that.
Well, they're talking about doing a possible Ben Solo show, like a mini show that kind of explains his turn to Kylo Ren. They're talking about doing a Darth Maul show, which I don't think they should.
No.
They need to stop going backwards. They need to go forward.
Even though I really like Darth Maul,
and
I think a lot of people really do.
And they have said that these new sequel trilogy characters, there's going to be more stories with them. But all the actors have said that they're not coming back. So that doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be more movies, but there could be animated shows, things that could, like the Clone Wars did.
Yeah.
Where it expands the story in a way in a different way, but also fills it in.
Yeah,
I mean, really, truly fills it in. If it hadn't been for the Clone Wars, I don't think I'd appreciate the prequel trilogy as much as I do. Clone Wars saved that trilogy because it offers up an Anakin Skywalker that isn't a whiny little bitch. It elaborates more so on the dynamics between Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah.
And it really shows the Emperor how elaborate this whole plot has been for the last, at that point, 12 years in the story. Maybe even farther back than that. And it really shows how he was really manipulating the whole galaxy to get to the end of Revenge of the Sith. And I think that if they did something like that with this sequel trilogy, it would be fine. All my concerns, all my critiques would go away because now it's being explained.
Okay.
So if they do that, that's fine. But there's no guarantees that they will.
I don't really think.
And part of me would much rather, if they're going to do an animated show, I'd much rather them do something, because I really think, and this is not necessarily entirely their fault because of circumstances, but I think the legacy characters got shit on a little bit. Not in a way that I don't like.
Why
the way
is that?
They had the potential to really kind of show what these characters have been doing for the last 30 years, and they didn't really do that. They give hints, and
see, that's the thing, though.
All we know about Luke Skywalker between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens is that at some point about 7 years before The Force Awakens, so that's 23 years after Return of the Jedi, at some point he decides to open up a Jedi Academy.
Yeah.
And it fails. That's all we know about Luke Skywalker. We know nothing else about him. We know that Han and Leia couldn't really make the marriage work, so he went back to smuggling. Actually, in a story, he actually goes to becomes a racing coach, like a pod racing coach or something, and then goes to, after Kylo Ren, then he goes to smuggling. But that's it. In 30 years, that's all they do. And then Leia, she's a politician, and then she becomes a resistance general. They had more development in the 3 years that the original trilogy takes place in.
Yeah, but this is the thing, though, and this is the thing.
4 years.
This is the thing you have to remember and keep in mind is Disney paid a lot of money for this.
Yeah,
so it's going to keep going.
I understand that.
They're going to expand on it and kind of do more things.
I'm not going to live forever, though. I've been with the series literally pretty much since I was born. So
I know. I mean, if Trump gets reelected, we might not be here in a couple of years.
That's true. Very, very, very true. Oh, we'll be here. We'll just be enslaved or something. I don't know. We'll be fighting a civil war.
I kind of like the way I really like the ending of the movie. I like the way that they wrapped it up.
Yeah. I thought the way the Emperor was defeated was a little weak, but just a little.
I don't
Overall,
know.
I can't.
Why did you feel it was weak?
Well,
that he was too easy to kill. Maybe
no, I don't think he was too easy to kill. Because
that was my issue with Snoke, was he was too easy to kill.
Right. But now we understand that. See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes. And that's why I said
when you saw
that was one of the big issues I had with that movie, and that's one of the things that the Rise of Skywalker kind of fixed.
Yeah. Yeah, because now you understand. Yeah, he was powerful in the Force, but he was still a clone.
Yeah, it was a clone.
So, and they do imply that Ben Solo or Kylo Ren is still a very, very powerful Force user.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty easy to see that. I mean,
But yeah, overall, it's not the ending. It's not that I thought he was too easy to defeat. It's just it was the way they did it. It was basically just a more powerful version of what happened to him in episode 3, but with Mace Windu.
But I mean, but I think yes, but I think you also have to take into account who Rey
was or is. Yes, yeah. No, like I said, I don't have a huge problem with it. It just when I have an issue with something, I always say, I'm not a filmmaker, I'm not a storyteller, but what would make if I had to write that ending, what would I have done different? Being that I'm not entirely sure I like this, what would I have done differently? I can't think of what I would have done differently.
I don't think I would have done anything different.
Right. Well, maybe I wouldn't either, but that's my point. If I can't come up with it, then what they did was fine.
Yeah.
Not to say that mine would be better, but in my own mind, in my own personal opinion, I can't come up with anything better, so it's fine, So that's how I feel. It was a little weak, but it works for what it's doing.
Yeah, but I liked Ben Solo kind of turning back to the light side or whatever you want to call it.
The only question I have is what really did that was Leia's death, because I think she sensed he was about to die, and she did it to basically save his soul. Mm-hmm. Why didn't she do that before?
Well, I don't know. I think it was kind of a culmination of several things. That, the conversation with his father, his love for Rey. It was a multitude of things, I think, kind of pulled him back.
Yeah, but I get the impression because it really snapped within him as a character when she died.
Yeah. Because
he sensed her dying even before Rey did. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Because Rey sensing her death is what made her save him.
Yeah.
But, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just because Leia sensed his impending, or maybe he sensed that he was about to kill Rey. Because he did have the upper hand at that point.
Oh, absolutely.
It was her death that made him stop, and then Rey took advantage of it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And then it was the conversation with his father that made him kind of go.
Yeah, people had a problem with that. I don't.
Really?
I
didn't. I see people. I think people have a problem with that because it's basically almost a word for word the exact same conversation that they had in Force Awakens.
But that's the point. It's coming full circle.
Yes, and that's kind of the whole kind of feel of the movie, the way it kind of ends, the way they end up back on Endor and things like that. And
well, it wasn't
Endor.
It was a moon of Endor.
Moon.
It wasn't the forest moon.
Correct. But still in that same area, and Rey kind of going back to where Episode 4 started.
Yeah.
It kind of brought it all back around, and I think that was kind of
theoretically it all started. I mean, even Episode 1 didn't start there, but it all comes from Tatooine.
Yeah.
Because all of it.
So I like the way they kind of wrapped it up.
Now, I was a little concerned when she was burying the lightsabers, because I'm like, is she just shutting down the Jedi thing too? But then she had her own, so that's fine.
She's the first person to have yellow lightsaber, by the way.
In canon, yes. Others have had yellow non-canon for tons of them. It's definitely not
Luke Skywalker had a yellow one.
The toy was yellow.
The toy was yellow.
Yeah, I had that.
Yeah, I remember that. So did I.
Because they didn't make it blue until Obi-Wan's was blue when he pushed it out, because it was in his hand.
Arm. Yeah.
But he didn't get the blue lightsaber until they developed I think it was the Power of the Force line that came out in the mid-90s.
Okay.
That actual version of Luke Skywalker got a blue lightsaber.
Yeah.
But
so I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, overall, I didn't think it was I obviously didn't think it was the best of the 9 movies, but
no, I think that's still kind of held by arguably Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. I would definitely say that's 1 or 2.
What would you say would be the other possible one?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'd have to go Empire.
Because my list, I guess, just
the
first 4.
I really like Force Awakens too, but
I wouldn't put it in the top 4.
I wouldn't put it in the top. Well, I'd say it's probably 3. It's not 1 or 2.
Top 5 maybe. Because I would go Empire, New Hope, Return of the Jedi, Rogue One, Force Awakens.
Yeah, see, I wasn't big on Rogue One though.
I liked Rogue One because
I felt
it
like
didn't have it wasn't trying to be anything other than what it actually was just a Star Wars war film, and that's all it was.
Yeah,
and
it was. I think,
and it's the whole like jumping off point for the whole original trilogy.
I mean, I kind of like the end of it. I just didn't like the first, 90% of the movie. I wouldn't say I didn't like it. It didn't have the same Star Wars connection that a lot of all the other movies do. It felt like a movie that kind of just happened to take place in the same.
Well, that's kind of what it is up until the very end.
When
it ties into everything else. So, which is exactly what it's intended to be.
Yeah, I like the fact that everyone died. I mean,
because that's life.
Yes,
the good guys. No,
thank you. That's life.
It is, but that's my point. In life, there's not always a happy ending. Is my point.
I know.
And it is still a happy ending.
And for the first time in the Star Wars series, every other movie's had kind of somewhat a happy.
Yeah,
ending.
but no, Empire Strikes Back was nothing but a downer. It had hope, but there's still some hope left. But it was a downer.
There was like really nothing.
And Last Jedi, there's nothing. There's like out of an entire resistance of hundreds of people, there's like 10 people left. Yeah. So Last Jedi is even a bigger bummer than. And you've lost Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, that was kind of the one thing I still kind of had an issue with those where I feel like they should have killed him off
in Rise of Skywalker.
But after like reading more stuff about this trilogy, I kind of understand why they did it that way. They had it was one main character died in each movie,
right?
Because Han Solo died in Force Awakens,
right.
Luke dies in The Last Jedi, and then
Leia would have died in this one, as she did.
I
just don't. Why though? Why did they have to die? There's no. I mean,
no.
It makes for good drama, and Han Solo killing him off. They had to kill him off. Harrison Ford was not going to come back for another. He would do. You get me
even
for
though
one,
he did.
He was probably on set for like 2 hours.
He spent a day on set probably,
and most of that was just getting in makeup.
And that's probably all he was there for Force Awakens.
Oh no, he was there for like 2 weeks.
Oh, was he?
I think, yeah.
Because it wasn't
in the movie that much, but he's in enough of the movie in different locations.
I got you.
So he had to have been on for about 2 weeks.
That makes sense.
But although Alec Guinness was only on set for 10 days, I think.
Really?
The original, yeah, I think so. Maybe 2 weeks. So.
Gosh, I would think it would spent more than that on
I don't
set.
think so. I'd have to look back at it, but I don't.
He was in enough of the movie. I mean,
yeah, but I don't think he was. He did all the. I think there was a week in Tunisia when they did the Tatooine stuff, and then there was like a week and a half in the UK at Pinewood Studios. That's it. So
seeing this did make me want to go back and watch them. I'm going to go back and watch them before I get school starts for me on January 10th, so I'm going to try to watch them.
You got some time to catch up on them, yeah.
Especially since I think they're all on
Disney Plus, except for Last Jedi and Solo, which is on Netflix.
Yeah.
So, and actually, Last Jedi is supposed to be leaving Netflix and going to
Disney Plus in January.
Yeah,
the end of January.
So, because that's when the contract's up for it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I go back to those movies anyway. I don't generally watch them in order, but I watched them all at least once a year.
I haven't watched the prequel trilogy
in a long time,
probably 20 years.
And you almost don't have to. Honestly, you really don't.
Oh, I will, because I'll go back and watch them in order. But.
Because I have a hard time, if I was going to sit down and watch the original trilogy, if I was going to watch the whole series, I'd have to watch at least, not all of Clone Wars, but I'd have to like do a big chunk of it that really, like I said, really brings that trilogy together. Yeah. And that's someone who is an apologist for the prequels for the most part.
I think the prequels get shit on more than they probably should.
Right. And and there's nothing about any of the complaints about the prequels that aren't true. But does it really ruin it for you?
Absolutely not.
It doesn't.
I've seen much worse movies.
Right. And ultimately, it's not even so much story.
It's the acting.
It's the acting. And it's not even that the actors are bad. Some of them are.
They're just bad acting performances.
They're just bad performances because the director isn't working with them for performance. He's working for them to get the words out so we can see all the fancy stuff that I'm doing with my technology. That's it. Which is fine, but it makes for painful watching sometimes.
Yep. No, I completely agree.
So, yeah, I don't know. What would you give this? What would you give this as a score? Just by itself, not Star Wars wise, just this movie by itself. That's how I'm scoring.
Out of 10, I'd say 7. I'd give it a strong 7.
Yeah, I would say 7. But again, I'm watching it again on January 1st. I'm gonna go see it, and I'm gonna look real closely. If I don't see anything that even comes close to giving me some little plot detail about Palpatine's return in that beginning scene or the end of the movie, I'm knocking it down to a 6.5.
I don't know. I just say, when you walk into a big ass room and there's like, I don't know.
It's a visual medium. Your job as a director is to make sure that the visuals, that everything you have in your movie has a point.
There's like 40 cloning pods around you.
Are there? Is there a sign that says cloning pods?
No, but obviously with the freaking whole
do they look exactly
vat of Snokes? I mean, it's pretty obvious.
In one that looks different than those other pods.
No, they don't.
Yeah, it does. They look different. Again, let me go see it again.
Okay. Like I said, I didn't have a big issue with it. No. I felt like they explained it enough, right. And I feel like I don't have to have everything spoon fed to me.
No, I don't either. But that's a big fucking story plot. It's a whole big thing.
And I understand that, but I think there's other ways that they can go about explaining it. I feel like they explained it. They didn't have to come out word for word.
They explained it. Okay, what was it? What
brought
him back?
Cloned.
Okay, what all the Clone Wars? There was a billion clones. What made any one of those more special than the other as far as a Palpatine? Because a clone of me is not gonna. It's not me. It's a copy of me. If I'm dead and I have a clone, there's no way it can have my memories.
No. But this is kind of. See, I feel like they kind of explained that in the last scene of the movie, when he was talking about how Rey would kill him and then his essence would go into her.
Okay.
Kind of the same thing. He died and his essence went into a clone.
I kind of got that as more as power more than like consciousness.
No, I kind of felt like it was more like consciousness.
Yeah, but he was asking her to sacrifice her own consciousness for his.
But at least that's the way I looked at it, and that's kind of the way. And that's why I said clone.
Well, and
that's
for what it's worth,
that's why when after the fact, because we were kind of talking about it after we saw the movie,
yeah.
After I started thinking about it after a while, I was like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense if he's cloned, and as he's dying, he's able to take his essence and move it to a clone.
And in the legend story, that's exactly what he was doing.
Okay, and I don't know that because I haven't seen any of that or read any of that.
But that's what he was doing, and that's how he survived.
Okay, well that makes sense.
But they don't say that. That's what's happening here.
Okay.
It's very clear in a 6-issue comic book that if it was a movie script, would be about an hour and 20 minutes. It's very clear in that one story that he couldn't make that clear in like 2 sentences in this movie.
I kind of feel like they did to a certain extent. Like I said, he comes into a room with a bunch of clones.
But you see a bunch of clones. And I see Snoke clones. I do not see Palpatine clones.
But I think it's one of those things. It's one of those things that I think they laid it out there and they're like, okay, we're going to allow the viewer to connect the dots.
Yeah. Which generally speaking is fine.
Hold on. Now, to be completely honest, it's not the same way I would have done it.
Right.
But
I don't have a problem with the cloning and the essence transfer, but some kind of like a better visual cue, or like I said, 2 extra lines of dialogue. It would have been that simple. Yeah. I don't like it spoon fed to me either. I don't like when they do like in some movies where they figure out, oh, you're the mastermind, and then they have to do this like montage of all the scenes that lead up to it.
Yeah.
Which they didn't even The Usual Suspects, but they kind of had to with that one.
Yeah, that kind of made the movie though.
Exactly. But I don't like it when it's unnecessary.
The Usual Suspects, when you see that scene, you go back and you're like, oh yeah, I feel like a fucking dumbass because I didn't see all this.
Right. But so arguably I don't need all that either. But I do prefer that if you're doing a story, especially since it's obvious that we're talking 35 years with no emperor, and then boom, he's back. Which to the rest of the galaxy is fine, but for the audience, there has to be something that says, what has he been doing? Why now?
Well, he kind of said that.
Why now, though? He didn't say why all of a sudden now.
Correct. He did not
why
say why
not
now.
25 years ago? Why not a year ago when Luke Skywalker died before Rey got as powerful as she got? Why now? Why didn't he do it then?
I guess I kind of felt like it was probably more so that it was kind of forced at that time because they were kind of out of options. It was either going to be she was going to pull Ben Solo back to the light side, or he was going to kill everyone and become the Emperor, basically.
Yeah, I don't think Rey was going to be able to pull him to the light side, though. I think that it was all Leia that did that.
Oh, yeah, but I'm just saying. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there.
Huh.
And I think,
and I wish they could have.
He explained what he's been doing all these years.
Building the Sith fleet. Yeah,
yes,
but
that and pulling the strings behind the scenes for everything.
But what's everything? That's the other part. Which again, if they do some kind of a I don't know if a prequel series, but something like the Clone Wars, that it can be animated because the animation is fantastic. And to be honest, when you're watching those old Clone Wars episodes, it's very easy to forget that it's animation.
Yeah,
because you know what the characters look like in real life, the actors and everything that are.
You said real life.
Well, you know what I mean.
I know.
Opposed to animation.
Yes, I know. And I've seen them before because Jack watched it for a while. So
a lot of times, I mean, there's some stories that are goofy and too kid friendly, but there's a lot of stories that are very dark and just very well written.
Yeah.
Rebels is another one that's very much the same thing, and I don't think Rebels was as necessary as Clone Wars is, or was, but it's a fun show to watch, and it's the same thing. You know, there's some good stuff in that, especially if you like, if you really want to know what happens to Darth Maul, you got to watch Rebels.
Yeah,
because it's beautiful what happens to him. But
I have seen that.
Yeah, I think I showed it to you actually. It was on YouTube. But Clone Wars, if they do some kind of a Clone Wars thing for this trilogy, and I don't think there'll be any problems. I think this could actually, with all that information, I could actually retroactively go back and say, you know what, this is the best trilogy of the three.
And that's what I'm saying, though, is that we don't know. I don't know what's planned. That could have been the plan all along. That we're going to leave this plot hole,
right?
Because we're going to build a series off of it,
right? And you're very, very true, because they are talking about doing another animated show.
Yeah,
which I mean that's probably a couple years away because they're really focusing on Obi-Wan, Cassian, and then there is a new movie coming out in 3 years.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, we don't know. It was the Clone Wars didn't premiere until 3 years after Revenge of the Sith came out.
Yeah.
So, there's no reason we can't assume that maybe in 3 years, 4 years, something like that, we might get something that fills all this in.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know. I thought it was a really good movie, even with some of the plot holes and issues that I saw in it. What you said you give it a 7 also?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would even go maybe because it's a fun movie to watch and it's visually was stunning. 2 hours and 44 minutes.
Because it didn't feel that long.
No,
it moved around. It moved at a very good pace.
Yeah.
There weren't down times in the movie. I felt like.
Yeah, I want to say it was 2 hours and 44 minutes.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. I'm gonna look it up real quick, just to be.
I will say that I don't know about as of 2 days ago when I looked, it had a 86% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, and that's kind of the weird thing about this movie is
it's the complete opposite.
It's the complete opposite of The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
The Last Jedi had a really good critic score and a really low audience score. This one got a really low critic score and has a really high audience score.
I tend to not really pay attention to what critics say about
I never do
movies
either. But
I mean,
it was only 2 hours and 22 minutes. I thought it was longer than that.
I thought it was longer than that also.
But no, it says 2 hours 22 minutes.
It felt quick.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it did. It flowed very well. It did. And I'm looking forward to seeing it again.
Yeah.
So for what it's worth. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I don't know, man.
At the very least, I will say this. Plot holes aside, we're talking about it. That's what a good film should do. Should make people talk about it.
Yeah.
Same with Last Jedi. I felt the same way. I liked The Last Jedi a lot. So.
And it's a movie that, after seeing it, I wanted to see it again.
Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker?
Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. And I didn't necessarily feel that way with
Last
Jedi.
It'd be interesting now, knowing all that stuff.
Going back and
watching Last Jedi and then see how it flows together.
I think it will
Because honestly, my score of the Force Awakens was lower until I saw The Last Jedi. Because then it became part of a much bigger story, and it wasn't just.
And that's how a lot of those movies work, though. Look at the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Right. I still think the Fellowship is the best one.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good stuff going on, but just the overall feel.
Two Towers is the worst of the three movies, though. Yeah. I feel like the middle movie always suffers
theoretically
because it's not the beginning and it's not the end.
No,
it's kind of
it's the exposition.
Yes,
it should be anyway, theoretically, because that's what it was for Star Wars.
Yeah,
it was the exposition. It was all as much of the backstory as you're going to get with a nice reveal, cliffhanger kind of thing, and ties. I have issues with Return of the Jedi because knowing what I know now, as far as other ideas and other plot ideas that were explored, and the original plan, I think the Return of the Jedi was rushed and thrown together.
Possibly,
it was because initially, he had planned out 9 movies. Leia was not going to be his sister. His sister was going to be probably held by or controlled by Palpatine at some point. And Vader was going to die in Episode 6, but Luke was going to ultimately kill the Emperor in Episode 9 with the help of his sister that he finds.
Oh. Yeah.
That's some of the plot elements. Rey is that sister.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I think Kylo Ren is a surrogate for Luke Skywalker in this story, relative to what George Lucas was planning on doing. Because I know they used a lot of George Lucas's ideas this time.
I don't know. I kind of feel like the way it played out is better than maybe how it maybe would have been.
Oh, originally. Well, arguably so, because even George Lucas was talking about all this other metaphysical hippie shit he was going to add into it. Even beyond midi-chlorians and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of glad we didn't get that. But overall,
yeah,
for what it's worth,
it could have went a completely different route, and this could have really ruined the Star Wars
original
series.
Trilogy. Yeah, that's why he went. That's why he took the safe route.
Yeah,
But
well, it's good. Thank God he did.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't mind an animated show that takes place that starts immediately at the end of Return of the Jedi and just fills in maybe a 5 or 10 year gap there.
Yeah,
build
no. Like I said, they've got a bunch of stuff planned.
Yeah.
And they're going to milk this cow for a long time.
Right, and that's kind of where I was going with, we have the legacy characters from the original trilogy. We see their beginning and we see their end, but we don't really there's no middle for them.
Yeah.
So to really flesh out who they are, Luke's sacrifice and death in Last Jedi seemed cheap and seemed against him because we don't know what kind of a person he was from the last time we saw him to this time.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think if they could do that too, and they could actually, there's things they could do right there. They don't even have to do a Clone Wars for the new trilogy. They could just do that middle ground.
Yeah.
And there could be things in there, just little hints of the Emperor's resurrection.
Like I said,
just even the beginning of his resurrection.
They could do something in Mandalorian.
Oh, right. Which I think they probably will have something in that in season 2 or 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
But, which is fine. I have a feeling the Baby Yoda thing is connected to that some way. In
really?
some way, yeah. Because we don't know what the Baby Yoda thing is, and tomorrow is
obviously we know it's not like the chucklehead that was ahead of me in line that was talking about how it was a Yoda reincarnated, because that doesn't
reincarnated, no, but possibly a clone.
Possibly, well, yeah,
because a clone test to make sure that the clone could carry on with the Force powers.
Yeah.
Because you can't necessarily clone midichlorians, apparently. That was kind of the point. So, even though they didn't use the midichlorian word, that's the implication.
Yes.
So, in order to test it out, somehow they got DNA from Yoda, which they would have. I mean, even if it was... Because we figured it would have been, 15 years before the Phantom Menace when Baby Yoda was born? Is what I figured.
Something roughly around
there.
So
the Phantom Menace is 32 years before Episode 4.
Yeah.
So, and that's 4 years to Return of the Jedi. So that's 36 years. And then we're talking 5 more years. So 41 years. So it would have been 9 years before.
9 years.
9 years before the Phantom Menace. And Yoda was a member of the council and dealing with all kinds of stuff.
So it's completely plausible.
Plausible that they could have gotten some Yoda DNA and cloned him.
That'd be interesting. But then again, the question becomes, okay, what are they going to do with this Yoda?
Well, that's going to have to be answered in the show anyway, because the Empire really wants that fucking thing back.
Yeah.
So,
Obviously.
So.
I don't know. I haven't seen the last 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow is tonight.
Yeah.
As we're recording this will be out on Monday, but we're recording on Thursday.
This will be out on Sunday.
I'm sorry, but we're recording it on Thursday.
Yeah. It'll be out. Yeah.
Not to pull back the curtain a little bit, but it's okay. It's just
our schedule's off a little bit because of the holidays.
Because of the holidays, exactly. So, so as of tonight or early tomorrow morning, we'll at least have some indication of where the show's going to go from here, because this is the final episode of the season.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I really need to get caught up then.
Yeah, but it's streaming. You can watch it anytime you want.
I know that,
but you've got the time now.
I do.
So I'm going to go back and watch them all together, because I can probably get through the whole series in about 6 hours.
Probably, because they're pretty short episodes, shortish.
Now, speaking of which, since you've got your Blu-ray player hooked up, I have Cobra Kai on my car you can watch.
Oh, okay.
The Blu-ray. I loaned it to my dad, so if you want to borrow it.
Yeah, sure.
So,
actually, I think, yeah, that's cool.
So, because you can't watch it on YouTube Red because you don't have YouTube Red, but I've got the Blu-rays. I bought from Amazon.
But what else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I spent I don't know. I was putting some Legos together today, watching Friends. So yeah. I got time to kill.
Well, and ironically, tell the audience you're putting together the Lego set, the Lego Friends set.
The Lego Friends set. Yeah. Yes, I was. Because
Which it sounds silly, but it's cool looking. I think it's awesome. I think I'm going to get it myself.
I spent 3 hours already trying to put this damn thing together.
And he's got half of
halfway
Central
through
Park
it
together.
Yeah. But it's kind of cool. But anyway, I don't know. It's definitely go out if you haven't seen the movie. Go out and check it out. I think
we've already spoiled it if you haven't seen the movie, but we did warn you ahead.
We
of time.
did warn you. I did warn you right before we spoiled it.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I think it's a good movie. I definitely want to go see it. I would go see it again, but I'm sure I'll probably take the kids to go see it. But
yeah, like I said, I'm gonna go see it on the 1st. So we'll see what happens.
That's all I got, man. Anything else you want to add?
No. I'm good.
I do want to say that this is our last episode of 2019.
Yeah.
So we kind of wrapped it up, and our next episode will be our
New Year's Day episode,
our New Year's Eve episode.
But it'll come out after the 1st.
Yeah, it'll be out the following Sunday. So
yeah, good shit.
Yeah, we get some interesting things in store for this year, I guess.
Hopefully, yeah.
But we'll talk about that on a much later episode.
Absolutely.
The Life in General podcast. Yep, that's all I got, Ian. Anything else?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
All right. Well,
good.
Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Peace.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you some cobras, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, them niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bro. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.
Oh shit. Watch out, you the god, Billy. Oh shit. Right now, and I'm smiling in your face, bitch. With a gold smile, you should probably make placement to your eye. Niggas sick as fuck. Standing with niggas who down for that party. Who down for some bitches who showing their bodies.